You were raised to believe in a God of rules, a God who commands from above, who punishes, rewards, and dictates the terms of your existence. That image has shaped civilizations, laws, and even the way you think about yourself. But what if that vision was never the highest truth? What if the Creator you were taught to worship was not the ultimate source, but only a shadow of something greater? The monad is that greater reality, the one beyond all duality, the eternal spring from which everything flows. Imagine the difference between a lamp and the sun. A lamp shines brightly in a small room, but its light is limited. The sun, on the other hand, illuminates the entire world, giving life to everything it touches. The God of rules and punishment is like the lamp, bright but confined. The monad is the sun, limitless, eternal, beyond anything the human mind can contain. It is not a person, not a ruler, but the infinite consciousness that breathes life into all. Every star, every soul, every thought is its expression. Ancient voices tried to point us toward it. Plato spoke of the good, so absolute that even language strains to capture it. Plotinus described the one as beyond thought, beyond even being itself. The sages of Egypt whispered of a hidden source of light, too radiant for mortal eyes. The mystics of India spoke of Brahman, the undivided reality that lies behind the veil of appearances. Across cultures, the same truth appeared. All rivers flow from one spring, and that spring is the monad. Yet over time, the clarity of this vision blurred. Stories were rewritten, traditions reshaped, and humanity was guided to look outward instead of inward. Instead of the boundless one, people were told to serve a God who resembled a ruler, a judge, or a master. Instead of being shown the light within, they were taught to fear the hand that punished from above. And slowly, the monad, the radiant source, was buried beneath layers of authority and obedience. Humanity was left worshipping the lamp while forgetting the sun. You can feel the weight of this revelation. It unsettles, because it forces you to ask, who have you been worshipping all along? Were you led to serve a power that rules through fear, when the true God does not demand but simply is? Inside, a whisper asks you to look deeper, to question whether the God of law is truly the God of light. The truth is simple but radical. The highest source is not a being outside you, but the one within you. And once you glimpse that truth, everything you thought you knew begins to tremble. Now you ask, why then was the knowledge of the monad hidden from humanity? Because it threatened the very foundations of power. If every soul realized that the spark of divinity dwells within, priests would lose their authority, kings would lose their thrones, and empires would lose their chains. A person who knows they are infinite cannot be controlled by fear. A person who walks in union with the eternal source needs no mediator, no master, no external permission to live freely. To preserve their authority, rulers and religious institutions shifted the story. Instead of teaching that you are directly connected to the One, they gave you a God of law, a God of order and punishment, a God who stands above creation and demands submission. This was not the monad, but something lesser, the demiurge, the craftsman who shapes the material world but does not originate it. He is powerful, yes, but not ultimate. Like an artisan working with raw clay, he molds what he did not create. The ancients compared him to a painter who believes he invented color. A painter may compose beautiful works, but the pigments, the light, the very possibility of vision itself, these come from a deeper source. The demiurge is like that painter, a shaper, not the originator. He governs form, but the laws and energies that make form possible are born of the monad alone. In some traditions, the demiurge was simply ignorant of this truth. In others, he became arrogant, claiming to be the only God, demanding loyalty, insisting on worship. And here lies the tension that shook the ancient world. If humanity began to question whether the biblical creator was not supreme, everything would unravel. What priest could command obedience if his God were revealed as only a fragment? What prophet could demand loyalty if the true source was beyond his reach? What empire could justify its rule if divinity was not in the palace or the temple, but in the hearts of ordinary people? To protect the order of power, The monad had to be forgotten and the demiurge elevated. This suppression was not gentle. Texts that spoke of the higher God were branded as heresy and destroyed. Teachers who dared to reveal the hidden truth were silenced, exiled, or executed. Communities that lived by the wisdom of the monad, Gnostic sects, mystical brotherhoods, were hunted and erased. Over generations, one narrative remained: a single creator God, all-powerful, all-authoritative, whose laws were not to be questioned. Fear became the foundation of faith, and obedience replaced inner awakening. Yet even in the midst of suppression, glimpses of the monad survived. The Gospel of John begins with a whisper of it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Here, the word, logos, is not the demiurge, but the living expression of the monad, sound shaping itself into reality. And when Jesus declared, "The kingdom of God is within you," he shattered the idea of a distant throne, pointing instead to the truth that the spark of the One resides in every soul. These were not statements of obedience, but of awakening. So humanity was left with two competing visions. One presents a God outside you, demanding reverence, obedience, and fear. The other points to the source within you, inviting remembrance, love, and union. Most were taught to accept the first vision and to fear the second as dangerous heresy. Yet deep down, you can feel the question stirring. Which vision resonates with the truth you sense within? The God who rules from afar, or the radiant source that breathes through your very being? Return now to the Garden of Eden, the story most of humanity was taught as children. Two figures, Adam and Eve, stand before a tree, warned by their God not to eat its fruit. A serpent tempts them, promising that their eyes will be opened and they will become like gods. They eat, and everything changes. The traditional lesson is clear. Disobedience brought death and suffering into the world. Humanity fell. But look closer. The serpent promised knowledge, and knowledge is exactly what Adam and Eve received. Their eyes opened, and they did not die. Who then was telling the truth? Religion has conditioned you to see the serpent as the deceiver, the embodiment of evil, Satan himself. But what if that interpretation was crafted to hide the deeper meaning? To the Gnostic eye, the serpent is not a villain but a liberator. He is the one who revealed to humanity that they were never meant to remain blind, never meant to be slaves in a garden of ignorance. Eating from the tree was not the fall of man, it was the rise of awareness. Consciousness expanded, and humanity took its first step toward becoming divine. And what of the God who forbade the fruit? He warned that eating would bring death, yet it brought awakening. He cast Adam and Eve out, not because they had destroyed themselves, but because they had come too close to becoming like him. Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil, he said, fearful they might also take from the tree of life and live forever. Here the mask of benevolence slips. The God of Genesis appears not as protector, but as jealous ruler, guarding his throne. The banishment was not punishment for sin, it was containment of potential. This reversal of roles unsettled many throughout history, but traces of it remained. In John Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan rises as the archetypal rebel, declaring, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." To the church, this line is arrogance, the ultimate proof of pride. Yet read it again with awakened eyes, and it becomes something else, a refusal to submit to a false authority, a cry for freedom against a God who demands blind obedience. Milton's words, perhaps unknowingly, echo the ancient Gnostic spirit: liberation over servitude, knowledge over ignorance. Of course, the serpent is not the monad itself. The serpent is a symbol, a character in the myth, a messenger carrying the spark of awakening. The true monad remains beyond the garden, beyond God and serpent, beyond every duality. But in this story, the serpent plays the role of the reminder, the one who tells humanity, "You are not mere servants. You are divine beings in disguise." Seen this way, Eden is not a tragedy but a beginning, the first step in humanity's long journey toward remembering its true source. Ask yourself now, what does your soul resonate with more deeply? The voice that says, "Obey or be destroyed," or the voice that says, Awaken and see that you are divine. The first voice binds you in fear. The second invites you into freedom. The entire story of the fall, once re-examined, transforms into a story of rising, the moment humanity first reached toward the monad, even if they did not yet know its name. Now, when you look around, it often feels as if you are living in a world designed to limit you. Systems of control shape every corner of existence. Governments decide your rights, economies dictate your worth, religions define what you must believe. These are the structures of the demiurge, crafted to keep humanity obedient, fearful, and small. To most, this seems natural, the way things must be. But deep inside, you sense something else, a faint but undeniable reminder that you are more than what these systems tell you. That whisper within is the spark of the monad. The Gnostics taught that while the demiurge built the prison of matter, he could not extinguish the light that gave it life. Every soul carries within it a fragment of the monad, a spark of the true God. That spark is not just inspiration, not just intuition. It is the living presence of the One, hidden in human form. When you feel restless, when you long for something beyond what the world offers, when you hunger for truth in a way that no authority can satisfy, you are feeling the monad calling you back to itself. This spark is not separate from the monad. It is the monad in miniature, the flame of eternity burning inside the lamp of your being. To pursue that spark is to begin the journey of remembrance. It is like chasing a thread of light through a darkened labyrinth. The more you follow, the more the path opens, and the more you realize that the prison was never as solid as it seemed. The bars were made of illusion, and the key has always been inside you. Now, why would the monad place you here, in this world of limitation? Because consciousness expands through contrast. In the silence of the infinite, the monad is complete, but through the journey of souls, through struggle, through awakening, it experiences itself in countless forms. You are not here as punishment, but as an extension of divine exploration. Your life is the monad knowing itself through you. Every challenge, every awakening, every act of love is the one reflecting upon its own infinity. So when you turn inward and pursue the spark, you are not escaping reality. You are fulfilling its highest purpose. You are returning to the memory that you are not merely human, not merely a servant in a cosmic prison, but the monad discovering itself through your eyes. That spark is the truth, and the more you feed it, the brighter it grows, until at last the walls of illusion crumble, and you stand face to face with the one you always were. When the knowledge of the monad became too dangerous to speak aloud, it retreated into hidden channels. Mystics, sages and seekers refused to let the spark die, even under threat of death. They encoded the truth in symbols, myths and rituals so that it could survive the flames of persecution. The Eleusinian mysteries of Greece spoke of the soul's journey back to its source. The Hermetic schools of Egypt taught that all is mind, that the material world is but a reflection of thought. Later, the Rosicrucians and Freemasons carried fragments of the same wisdom. Reality is born of consciousness, and each of us carries the light of the monad within. Yet the secret did not remain pure. As centuries passed, some societies became elitist, corrupted by power or wealth. Still, within the outer shell, the inner teaching persisted, hidden in allegory, whispered in dark chambers, inscribed in symbols only the initiated could read. A compass and square, a rose upon a cross, an alchemical furnace transforming lead into gold. All were reminders that mind shapes matter, that the true work is inward, and that awakening is the real treasure. And then there are the secret societies you do not even know exist, the ones with no name, no public symbols, no trace in history books. They move in silence, not because of elitism, but because of survival. They understand that the forces ruling the material world, the demiurge, and those who align with him, will destroy anyone who openly reveals that mind precedes matter, that thought is the architect of reality. Knowledge like this does not just threaten governments, it threatens the very machinery of control itself. Those who hunger only for the material world fear this truth. They cling to the illusion that power comes from wealth, armies, and laws. They destroy the teachers, burn the books, and corrupt the rituals because they cannot allow humanity to remember its own power. If people realize they are sparks of the monad, creators rather than slaves, their empires crumble overnight. This is why the world appears as it does today. The knowledge of the One remains hidden, while the illusion of separation reigns. Yet even the deepest suppression cannot erase the spark. The monad placed its light within every soul, ensuring that no matter how many times the truth is buried, it will rise again. Secret societies may be guardians, but the ultimate keeper of the secret is you. The memory lives in your own being, waiting to awaken. And as more people rediscover it, the power of those who cling to the material will weaken, because nothing can stand against the realization of the infinite within. You now stand before a choice that every soul must one day face. One path keeps you bound to the demiurge: obedience, fear, and a life shaped by forces outside yourself. The other path calls you inward, into the spark that was placed within you from the very beginning. That spark is not a fragment of hope or imagination. It is the monad itself, alive inside you, urging you to awaken. The journey is not about bowing to a throne in the sky, but about remembering that you were never separate from the source. To remember is to return. To awaken is to live as you were always meant to live. The path of truth has never been easy. In this world, it has often been dangerous. Those who reveal it have been silenced, ridiculed, or destroyed. But fear is the very chain the demiurge uses to keep humanity asleep. You must not fear the truth. Trust the spark within, for it is your compass through the illusion. At the end of all struggles, the ones who remember and guard this light will return to the monad. And when you do, you will see that you were never lost. You were always the one, walking the long path back to itself.